The Trojan War is often remembered as a tale of love and betrayal, a sweeping epic that has echoed through the centuries. We picture Helen, the face that launched 1,000 ships at the heart of a conflict that would shape legends and inspire poets for generations. But beneath the poetry and romance, the real cause of the war was likely far less sentimental. It was about power, resources, and the fierce competition for control of lucrative trade routes that connected East and West. Troy's strategic location on the Dardanelles made it the gatekeeper of a vital passage, controlling the flow of goods, metals, and wealth essential to the economies of the Bronze Age world. The war was about economic dominance, the desire to command the crossroads of civilization, not just the fate of a stolen queen. Armies clashed not only for glory but for the promise of riches and the security of their people. The stakes were nothing less than survival and supremacy. The myth of Helen gave a human face to what was, in reality, a brutal struggle for survival and prosperity. Poets like Homer transformed a geopolitical conflict into a story of heroes, honor, and tragedy, weaving together fact and fiction until the lines blurred. But the true motivations were rooted in ambition, rivalry, and the timeless quest for power that has shaped human history. As we look back, let's set aside the romance and focus on the evidence unearthed by archaeologists. Clues that reveal the real story behind the legend. The real Trojan War is a story of ambition, technology, and the struggle for control. A story as relevant today as it was 3,000 years ago, echoing in every conflict over resources and influence. Let's uncover the truth behind the legend, peeling back the layers of myth to find the reality beneath. The myth gave the war its soul, but history reveals its bones. And in those bones, we find the enduring story of humanity's drive for power, survival, and meaning. The legend begins with a wedding, one that would change the fate of nations. In the heart of ancient Greece, gods and mortals mingled, celebrating the union of Peleus and Thetis, a mortal king and a sea goddess. But the festivities are interrupted by a single, gleaming golden apple, inscribed with the words, "For the fairest." This simple fruit would ignite a rivalry that echoed through history. Three powerful goddesses, Hera, queen of the gods, Athena, goddess of wisdom, and Aphrodite, goddess of love, each claimed the apple as their own, demanding to be named the fairest. Unable to decide, Zeus appoints Paris, a young prince of Troy known for his beauty and judgment, to settle the dispute. The goddesses, determined to win, each offer Paris a tempting bribe. Hera promises him dominion and power over all of Asia. Athena offers unmatched wisdom and skill in battle. Aphrodite tempts him with the love of the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris, swayed by desire, chooses Aphrodite's gift, setting in motion a chain of events that would shake the ancient world. Aphrodite's promise is Helen, famed for her beauty, but already married to Menelaus, king of Sparta. Paris, enchanted, journeys to Sparta and wins Helen's heart, or perhaps simply steals her away. Together, Paris and Helen flee to Troy, leaving behind a kingdom in turmoil and a husband betrayed. Menelaus, furious at the loss of his wife and his honor, calls upon his brother Agamemnon and the other Greek kings. Bound by a sacred oath to defend Helen's marriage, they unite for war. Soon, 1,000 ships set sail across the Aegean, carrying warriors and heroes to the gates of Troy, determined to reclaim Helen and restore their pride. The gods themselves take sides, their rivalries and grudges turning the battlefield into a stage for cosmic drama, where fate and free will collide. The myth reframes this campaign of conquest as a noble quest for justice and honor, masking the brutal reality beneath a veil of heroism. Yet beneath the divine intrigue and poetic storytelling, the legend justifies a decade of relentless war, suffering, and destruction. The tale transforms a savage conflict into an epic of passion, betrayal, and fleeting glory, immortalizing its heroes and villains. It's a powerful narrative, crafted to inspire and justify, but the real motives behind the war were far more pragmatic, rooted in power, wealth, and control of trade. The myth made the war unforgettable. The truth made it inevitable, echoing through the ages as both legend and lesson. Historians look past the myths to the economic realities of the late Bronze Age. Bronze, made from copper and tin, was the era's most vital resource. Troy's strategic position at the Dardanelles allowed it to control trade between the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. The Mycenaean Greeks depended on these routes for grain and metals. A powerful Troy could tax or block this lifeline, threatening Greek prosperity. Escalating trade disputes and competition for resources likely sparked the war. The conflict was about securing access and eliminating a commercial rival. The scale of the war makes sense when seen as a fight for economic survival, not just for a queen. The story of Helen was likely propaganda, a rallying cry for a war over wealth and power. The real Trojan War was fought for control, not love. The Trojan War's enduring power comes from its unforgettable characters, whose stories have echoed through centuries and inspired countless retellings. On the Greek side, we meet Agamemnon, the ambitious and sometimes ruthless leader, Menelaus, the wronged husband whose heartbreak set the war in motion, and Odysseus, the master strategist, famed for his cunning and wit, and of course Achilles, the unmatched warrior whose rage and glory have become legendary, embodying both the brilliance and the tragedy of heroism. The Trojans, meanwhile, were led by the wise and sorrowful King Priam, who watched his city and family face unimaginable trials. His sons Hector, the noble defender of Troy, beloved by his people, and Paris, whose fateful choice sparked the conflict, stand at the heart of the Trojan cause. Helen stands at the center, a symbol of beauty and regret, perhaps a pawn in a political game, yet also a woman whose story has been told and retold in countless ways. These figures, whether real or legendary, embody timeless human struggles, pride, duty, ambition, and love, each driven by their own desires and fears. Their personal dramas elevate the war from a mere siege to a profound exploration of the human condition, where every victory and loss is deeply felt. The myth blurs the line between history and legend, but the emotions and choices of these characters are universal, resonating with us even today. The war's true legacy is not just in its battles or its ruins, but in the stories of those who fought, loved, and lost. Stories that continue to shape our understanding of heroism and humanity. These characters make the Trojan War a story for the ages, a tapestry woven from courage, sorrow, and hope. They remind us that behind every conflict are real people, with hopes, dreams, and flaws, people not so different from ourselves. Their stories endure because they are, at their core, deeply human, reminding us that history is not just about events, but about the people who lived them. Achilles, the greatest Greek warrior, is the heart of the Iliad. Born of a goddess, nearly invincible except for his heel, Achilles is both hero and tragic figure. His pride leads him to withdraw from battle after a dispute with Agamemnon. The Greeks falter without him, and his friend Patroclus is killed by Hector. Consumed by grief and rage, Achilles returns, seeking vengeance. He slays Hector, but his quest for glory brings only sorrow and destruction. Achilles' story is a meditation on the cost of pride and the pursuit of immortality. He chooses fame over a long life, but pays a terrible price. Even the greatest hero is undone by his own flaws. Achilles' legend warns us, glory is fleeting, but the consequences of war are eternal. For centuries, Troy was thought to be pure myth. That changed in the 1870s, when Heinrich Schliemann excavated Hisarlik in Turkey and uncovered the ruins of a great city. Modern archaeology has confirmed Troy's existence, revealing layers of cities built atop one another. The most likely candidate for Homer's Troy is Troy 7a, a fortified wealthy city with massive walls. Evidence shows it was destroyed by fire and violence around 1180 BCE, the era of the Trojan War. The ruins match Homer's descriptions: strong walls, a citadel, and signs of a brutal siege. While the gods remain legend, the city was real, a powerful center controlling trade and wealth. The discovery bridges myth and history, letting us walk where heroes once stood. Troy's stones are silent witnesses to a real conflict that inspired epic poetry. The legend has roots in reality, buried beneath centuries of earth. The walls of Troy still stand, echoing the stories of the past. After a decade of siege, Troy's walls held strong until the Greeks turned to cunning. Odysseus' plan, a giant wooden horse left as a gift, hiding Greek warriors inside. The Trojans, ignoring warnings, brought the horse into their city. At night, the Greeks emerged, opened the gates, and Troy fell in a single, brutal night. The Trojan horse became a symbol of deception and strategy. But did it really happen? Most historians doubt the literal story. The horse may have been a siege engine, a metaphor, or a later embellishment. What matters is the idea. Troy was taken not by force, but by wit. The legend endures as a warning: beware of gifts from your enemies. The fall of Troy was as much about cleverness as it was about strength. The myth ends with Troy's total destruction. Priam slain, the city burned, survivors enslaved. Archaeology supports a violent end for Troy around 1180 BCE, but history is rarely so clear-cut. The war was part of the wider Late Bronze Age collapse, when civilizations across the region fell. Even the victorious Mycenaeans soon faced ruin. Their palaces were destroyed, and Greece entered a dark age. The Trojan War was not just the end of a city, but the end of an era. The conflict weakened both sides, hastening the collapse of great powers. The real ending is not heroic triumph, but mutual destruction. The war's lesson: even victors can lose everything. The fall of Troy was a symptom of a world in crisis. In the end, the war's true cost was civilization itself. The Trojan War story has echoed for millennia, blending myth and reality. Archaeology and history reveal a conflict over power and survival, not just love and honor. Understanding the truth behind the legend enriches, rather than diminishes, its power. Homer's epics are not history but brilliant literature capturing the spirit of an age. The search for Troy connects us to our past and reminds us that legends often hide real human stories. Every discovery adds to the puzzle, but some mysteries remain. Whether Helen or Achilles truly existed, the journey to uncover their world is ongoing. The line between myth and history is thin, and exploring it is endlessly fascinating. The tale of Troy is just one of many waiting to be uncovered. Thank you for joining this journey into the past. Subscribe to discover more stories where legend meets history.